So Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso have threatened to leave ECOWAS, and they're standing 10 toes on business. Nothing is going to make them change their mind. They made this declaration at the beginning of the year in January, and ECOWAS gave them 12 months to reconsider, to negotiate, to dialogue. But these three countries are saying, guess what? Time's up. We're leaving. Thank you for your time. We're not interested in being in a partnership with you. And this is coming so first at ECOWAS because they were not expecting that these three countries were going to stick to their guns. And now ECOWAS is trying to say, we'll give you more time, we want to talk, we want to negotiate, but it looks like these three countries have already made up their mind. What does this mean for the future of ECOWAS? We discuss it. Hello there, how are you doing? Welcome to another episode of our conversations here on the New Dawn Africa channel. My name is Ondiro Oganga. I'm a business journalist by profession and a digital content creator. And I love coming on here and talking to you guys about Black people empowerment and how we can take up space on the global stage. I profile Africa through people, politics, places, and culture. Connect with me on social media at Ondiro Oganga across all platforms. And remember to subscribe to the channel. I mean, we've had tremendous growth in the past year, and I'm just hoping that we can continue to grow like that. Give this video a like, it really helps it and helps the algorithm push it a little bit further out to the people. Now, let's get to the gist of this video. A lot has been happening in West Africa, and one of those things is the fact that divisive cracks are beginning to form in ECOWAS, and it's visible for everybody to see. Why do I say this? I say this because ECOWAS has always been that body that has looked like it was very united. It had its thing going for itself, but it was blind to the challenges that West Africa is going through. Now, West Africa is a really interesting piece of land or part of Africa because it's a beautiful blend of different demographics, different nationalities, different religion, different colonial history and background. Take, for example, they have certain countries in West Africa that have Francophone. They were colonized by France, some were colonized by Britain. And the colonial system makes countries very, very different. Francophone countries have a very different style of leadership, very unique set of challenges as opposed to countries that were colonized by Britain. If you also look at religion, it's very different. Some of these countries have majority Muslim demographics, some have majority Christian demographics. And this is a beautiful blend of different cultures, different people, but you must do a differential diagnosis and recognize how are these differences our strengths and also where can the weaknesses appear. And I feel like that's one of the things that ECOWAS did not take into account. And so there have been push and pull and the cracks are beginning to show. So let me put this into context for you. In the last, say, 3 to 5 years, there's been more than 8 coups in the West African region. We've seen coups in Niger, we've seen coups in Burkina Faso, we've seen a coup in Mali, we've seen a coup in Guinea. There have been also other attempted coups. And this is something that does not sit well with ECOWAS. ECOWAS is a big champion and big proponent of civilian-led government. And this is quite understandable. It's self-explanatory. Military regimes have been known to be brutal. They've been known to not respect human rights. They've been known to trample on the rule of law because the military had their own way of doing business. And there are other challenges that come with military governments. For example, many international organizations and bodies do not recognize military governments. They might give you the space to go through the political transition that you need to go through, but they don't do business with military governments, particularly Western powers. And that's where the problem comes in. So you have the most recent coup in Niger, where the presidential guard boosted President Mohamed Bazoum on grounds that he wasn't running the affairs of the country correctly. Now, Niger is one of the most poorest country, not just in West Africa and Africa, but all over the world, it's one of the least developed countries. Even though they have massive supply of uranium, only 20% of their population have access to electricity. The massive numbers of the population are also at risk of hunger and malnutrition, and there's just a lot of human suffering in this country. Now, when that coup happened, of course, the people were celebrating. The military junta decided to cut ties with France. They say they don't want anything to do with France. They want to build their own connections and build new relations that are founded on mutual respect and mutual benefits. But this did not sit well with ECOWAS. What does ECOWAS do? It slaps them with sanctions, financial, economic, it closes the border. And what in turn happens is there's shortage of supply of food, of medicine, of electricity, goods and services are not moving across the border. Now remember, this is happening in the most vulnerable country, not just in the region, but in the world. And this angered Niger, not only Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso joined Niger in blaming ECOWAS for the turmoil that Niger was experiencing. And this is where the cracks began to form. ECOWAS then took it a step further and said, you know what? If you don't reinstate President Mohamed Bazoum, we're going to invade you militarily. And this, I would say, was the straw that broke the camel's back. Not only did it rattle these leaders, but it made them feel as if them and ECOWAS are not speaking the same language. They're not reading from the same script. And that is when they decided that they were going to leave the bloc altogether. Now, they're accusing ECOWAS of a couple of things. One, they're saying ECOWAS are French puppets. They're under French influence. And that's the reason why they are very vehement in their opposition against military and the junta-led governments in the Western Sahel. And also they're saying that ECOWAS is literally a toothless bulldog. They've not been able to help them fight Islamist insurgencies in the region at all. So this is a region that is struggling with insecurity. There's a lot of jihadist attacks, and ECOWAS does nothing. Yet when the military takes over power, now ECOWAS has a military that it's willing to invade Niger and reinstate President Mohamed Bazoum. And it also raised the questions about what is the interest of ECOWAS in reinstating President Mohamed Bazoum. They were not calling for a free and fair election. They were just saying, we'll reinstate President Mohamed Bazoum. And that's what raised these questions. ECOWAS holds their ground. They say, one, we are against military governments and we're big champions of civilian-led governments. And the questions that they've been asking, they can't get answers to. For example, they were asking when are elections going to be held. If you look at a country like Mali, they've postponed elections twice. Niger says transition is going to take 5 years. Burkina Faso says transition is going to take about 3 years. So these are answers that are not good enough. And so you have ECOWAS being uncomfortable with this arrangement, but they're not as uncomfortable as wanting them to leave the region, because when they leave the region, then it creates gaps in the system. For example, these three countries, most of them and some countries in the Western Sahel are landlocked. So they depend on West African coastal countries to export their gold, to export their uranium, and so West African coastal countries benefit from the revenue that they get from that. And also these routes are important for movement of goods, of services, of people, because ECOWAS passport holders can freely move around the region. So there are different dynamics that need to be worked out in the deal. Are they likely to leave? Yes, come January, I think, and I'm going to bet that they're going to leave the bloc. They want to form their own union. It's called Alliance of the Sahel. Do they have the money? Do they have the technical ability to get it up and running right now? No, what they have right now is goodwill, and sometimes you give people benefit of doubt, and the goodwill goes a long way. But how successful is this going to be? Not certain, but it's a wake-up call for ECOWAS to go back to the drawing board, reassess what its priority is and how it's going to relate with its member states, and then reshape, remodel, and reorganize itself and its structure so that members can feel like they get some form of benefit from being in ECOWAS. Otherwise, we are likely to see other countries at any point of discontentment or dissatisfaction, they're going to try to leave because somebody has done it before. It just takes one to do it, and if they successfully do it, then who's to say that others are not going to follow? Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think that these three countries are going to leave ECOWAS? And do you agree with them that ECOWAS are actually French puppets in the region? Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again next time.